Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we have ourselves a track from an act named MZMRIZR titled Cosmic Eyes, and if we switch over to here we have ourselves a track on the screen. This has been released, as I understand it, through Electric Girl Records, released on the 13th of July 2023, so it's a brand new track and we're going to be listening through it from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go. I wasn't expecting it to come in like that. There's a bit of a pause, but that's okay. Love the synth sequences. Nice repetition on the root note. I like the variation as well on the percussion. Lots of sort of like stuff going on with the cymbals and the kicks, and to have just that one synth additional on the side there with like sort of a whole note tone on the other, it was really interesting with the variation there with the approaches. Cheery little triad broken chords here. Oh, bringing in the guitars now, nice. I think it's a really classy thing, that actually. Adds a nice little bit of analog warmth there, you know? With your cosmic eyes. I'm not making out all of the words. I'm not getting all of them. It's quite reverb soaked. There's not a supermassive amount of sharpness with the way things are being pronounced here in the mix, but I don't necessarily mind that. It reminds me of a lot of the synth stuff that happened back in the 80s and also some of the more recent stuff now, with some of the 2010s, late 2010 stuff like Vaporwave, etc. Great harmonizing, bringing in both sides like that one at a time. It's a really dope sub-bass resonance as well. It's got a great groove to it. Like, I don't know how to dance, so this is kind of a little bit cringe. I'm not doing this kind of movements because I feel like I need to. Genuinely, the music just makes me want to, it makes me want to associate with it. It's just fun, you know? I think that's a really important thing with music, is that it makes you want to get involved with it. It tries to sort of catch your attention and retain it. And it's not just the falsetto-ish kind of misty vocals that have got me here. It's just a really perky, energetic, yet easy to access synth leads that are kind of ascending and cascading on top. And the fact that they're unpredictable as well. And we're just fading out with the moody, ambient steel string strum guitars with a bit of fizz, bit of noise there, a reiteration of the hook line. Do you want to go with those cosmic eyes? It's interesting. It makes you think. You got to kind of imagine what the track is about. And I kind of enjoy it when music does that. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track by an act named MZMRIZR, the song being Cosmic Eyes. Now, what do I think this track is about? I think it's basically about someone saying that their cosmic eyes, they transport you to another place. Where do you want to go with those cosmic eyes? We could go anywhere. We could go to outer space and beyond. It's getting lost in the ethos as the person's soul. I want to go deeper than that, but I don't know if it's worthwhile in the review. Basically, for me personally, I see this as simply more than eye contact. This is something really special. It could also be figurative, but that's kind of the fun part about the relative minimalism of lyrics, is that you can kind of make your own kind of truth out of it, unless it's explicitly spoon-fed to me. And I dig that. I think that that's really creative and respectful to the listener. It doesn't handhold. I think that outside of what I got from the story, I think the vocals were tremendous. I really enjoyed the falsetto-ish tone. They emanated really well in amongst all of the synth layers, the bass, the guitars that were double-tracked on the sides, and the drums. I think there was a great balance between all those different elements there, and I think they were really pleasant to listen to and very palatable. I literally have next to no complaints about it. If I'm honest with you, I think that the relative minimalism with the range of the vocals here means that whenever they came in, they were very easy to tack onto, and it was almost like a soothing extra lead layer on top of a track if you didn't necessarily get all the words through clearly, which I don't particularly mind. I think that it's important to consider vocals to not just be a storytelling device, but as an additional instrument in the mix. Because really, if, let's just say, the person's language, their first language isn't English, for example, you still need to be able to enjoy how the singing sounds, right? I think when you're putting music out there and into an international audience, that's kind of a thing you got to expect, that people might not necessarily get it straight away. So again, not only were the words simple and the story easy to understand, the vocal style was great. I like the color of it. I think that it was fantastically put together. I think that it suited the vibe and atmosphere of the rest of the track's elements very well, and it's a good start, It almost sounded mystical as well. It's very soft and inviting, as if you're in that dreamlike state, which, considering God MZMRIZR is the musician behind it, it makes sense. I think in addition to that, what we had going on with, the track itself at 3 minutes 20, which is wild, man. That's a very short track for the amount of content we had. And by that, I mean, I don't feel like at any point I was disinterested in this track. There was no filler whatsoever. The track felt like it went not in 3 minutes, but in 3 seconds. And I mean that genuinely. There was enough range and variety going on with the different drum, bass, synth pad, and synth lead parts, with the guitars coming in the mid-center and the middle part that kind of blew me away. I wasn't expecting them to come in with a bit of crispy distortion there. It was very charming. I gotta give him thumbs up for that. A lot of respect for that, because it's not easy to surprise me nowadays, but we had that. I think part of the reason I was surprised that we had the guitars was simply because we didn't need them, but we had them anyways, and it was fine. And I think that they provided a nice mid-range kind of resonance and warmth to it, that kind of analog grain that can be missing if you rely too much on synthetic elements, such as with, again, the synth leads and the pads and everything like that. And it's totally fine to want to go into a vibe there and want to kind of sell into that. But I think ultimately what is arguably more important is that we are really trying to create an environment with our music where, just having guitars can sometimes be it's a tricky thing. It's too subjective. The guitars sounded great. The drums, there was a lot of variety with a different sort of cymbal and kick grooves there. We didn't have the same kind of kick snare pattern there. We switched it up. We had repetitions and loops of the kicks, etc. Various kind of cymbal groups there, messing between those eighths and sixteenths there. We kept things moving forward at a consistent pace, though, which I enjoy. There was never any stuttering or stumbling with the percussive elements there, which still provided for a smooth experience. There weren't any massive dips and highs and lows, and so it was more like a smooth experience. But it was still fascinating to hear the attention to detail with this, where we didn't really sleep on any particular element, not least the percussion or the drums. The bass line, there was some nice sub-bass resonance, especially in that end part, but I think that it was just nice to have it covered in a way where it wasn't too overwhelming or overpowering. And I think part of that classiness there is simply because there was so much color in the various melodies and harmonies that were being done on the synth pads and leads that it would have been a shame for that to have been the case. I think that you can have a nice balance between the bass and the mid to high elements without it needing to be dubstep or like, it's great. It's great stuff. And I know there's a big difference in the world of electronic music between dubstep and whatever else. But you get what I mean, right? We kept the basses balanced. We had some really interesting ideas on like the synth pads with the various sort of triads we had. We never strayed into extensions. We stayed with traditional major and minors, etc. But then we also had interesting arpeggios going on where we kind of hold the triad shape and go between the parts of the chords, but then we'd switch the bass line as we're keeping those notes there. And I like that kind of that diversion there, the different movements between the two hands, basically, or the two sides. I think it was added a sense of moving apart and coming together. It was a very pleasant feedback loop there. So that was great to hear. I think ultimately, the track itself did kind of sound like it was a little bit of a dream sequence, like you're going on a journey somewhere as if you were already going where those cosmic eyes were being taken you. You're almost like asking the person, where are we going? Where are we headed together? And I think that's a really beautiful thing. That's how the song made me feel. And when I listen to the lyrics and when I hear the story being told by the vocals, I just think all the individual kind of components make a lot of sense here, and I'm really feeling positive about what MZMRIZR does in future. I mean, finally, the recording, mixing, mastering, and studio production was tight. I'm very happy with that. I think they did a tremendous job of getting the vocals to work with all the other elements of the mix and keeping them nice and present without anything being too loud, too quiet. I think there was a good balancing with like the stuff in the frequency spectrum, the wind, the resonant frequencies and things were nice and wide in the stereo field there. There was dynamic range to the track, even though I said things were reasonably smooth. We didn't go too heavy and it wouldn't go too soft. I mean, granted, things got a bit quieter at the end when it was just a kind of strum steel string guitars and the vocals reiterating the hook lines. But that's why I'm saying this dynamic range. We got to the end of the bell curve, we came down, we simmered, and then we petered out. I don't think we nearly need more than that. I think that it was exactly what was the doctor ordered, and it was a nice way to conclude things. And it was just very sort of like well thought out, I think, by MZMRIZR in that respect. In addition to things being nice and wide stereo field and well balanced in the frequency spectrum, I think that just the drums were nice and punchy with a little bit of side chaining, but not too much. And the synth pads and leads, as well as the guitar parts being double tracked on the sides of the stereo field, I just think things were like they removed the frequencies that were especially important to notch things together. The levels in general were good. And the track was nice and loud without pumping, so limiting compression was handled well. I mean, effectively, this is by quite positive review and first impressions of MZMRIZR with their track Cosmic Eyes, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via the various social medias and their YouTube page. Stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as either help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.